Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us
Can you hear
today.
me?
Today is Mental Health and Foster Care Awareness Month. That's what we're going to be talking about. These are very important issues, and Youth Power addresses in many ways. We're going to be talking about a lot of those today, so thanks for joining us probably during your lunch. So we have 5 regional youth partners throughout the state for Youth Power, and we are all hosting this webinar to spread hope, acceptance, and awareness of youth and young adults who experience mental health challenges and or have experience in foster care. And it's really important to hear other people's experiences and stories so that we are constantly reminded of how diverse everybody is and that we all need different things to feel, recover, and thrive. Mental health doesn't discriminate, and if it doesn't affect you personally, it definitely affects somebody you know. So by spreading hope and acceptance and awareness, we're really just opening up that space for other people to be able to do the same thing. We're amplifying our voices, we're sharing our stories, and we're letting people know what helped aid in our recovery and our resiliency. So we're also going to be talking about ways that you can get involved in Youth Power, or maybe people that you work with can get involved in Youth Power, including our regional teams. And we have some really great events coming up that we want to tell you about. If you have any questions during the webinar, there's a chat box. Please put your questions in there and we will get to them. And another thing is that we are recording the webinar, so you'll be able to access that on our website. We'll have more information about that at the end and how you can do that. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Peterson, who is our New York City Regional Youth Partner, and Peterson has a few questions for you guys.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys can all hear me good. So I definitely am so good to meet you. I'm the New York City Regional Youth Partner for Youth Power. And before you guys learn more about us, we want to know a little bit about you. So we have 2 polls that are about to go up. And the first poll is, we want to know, what region are you guys from? We want to know if you're from Long Island, New York City, Hudson Valley, Central, or Western region. I'm going to launch the poll right now, and I want you guys to take a few seconds to answer. So I see we have Long Island here, we have New York City, we have some people from Hudson Valley and the Central region and the Western region. Any more people? I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, so I'm going to close out that poll. So it seems like we have a lot of Long Island people here. We have people from New York City. We have people from Hudson Valley. Welcome. Next, we want to know what represents you. We want to know, are you a young person calling in? Are you a youth peer advocate calling in? Are you a family member here just, trying to gain more information? Maybe you're a service provider. I'm going to launch that poll. Tell me, where are you guys coming from? What are you guys are coming as we see? I see some youth peer advocates here. I see some service providers. Yes, good to see some family members. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so now that we know exactly really who's coming from what, I see a lot of youth peer advocates in, I see some service providers. Now, if you want to go down into the chat and just tell me what organization you represent, and we'll give you all a little shout out before we start our presentation. So just write down in the chat. You just chat in exactly what you want to go. I'll start it off. Is the chat function working? Well, I'm from New York City. Okay, I see it. New York is for Children. We have Ellen from New York is for Children. Welcome. We have Abigail from OMH. Welcome. We have Alice from Drum NYC. We have Voices United for Change, and we have Watertown, New York, Stephanie. We have the Family Counseling Center, New York. Welcome. We have Apio Family Services. We have the Northern Regional Center for Independent Living near Fort Drum, New York. Welcome, guys. So good to have you here. Really excited if we have any more people who want to come and just shout out where they're from. We have families together in New York State here. Welcome. So right now, I'd like to transition to another member of our regional team, Alex, and he can take you from here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar, and thank you for introducing me, Peterson. What I want to do is just briefly discuss with you who we are and how we got in our role. So what we are is RYPs, as we call it, or Regional Youth Partners. So New York State is broken into 5 different regions: Hudson River Region, Western New York, Central New York, New York City, and Long Island. In each of these regions, there's a full-time employee of Youth Power assigned to the role of Regional Youth Partner, or as you'll hear us say, RYP. The RYP is a young adult with personal experience, so it holds true to the Youth Power mission of being totally peer and youth guided. And they're tasked with networking and building youth involvement throughout their region, assisting in the growth of youth peer supports and the creation of advisory councils, and offering technical assistance to organizations aiming to increase youth voice or best practices for being youth guided. And one of the biggest goals of the RYPs across the state is to identify and empower young leaders to be involved locally and on the state level to push for change. As RYPs, we all have our own stories, and we share them in the hopes of highlighting what helped us overcome our struggles and also what has helped to create these better outcomes. And as you see in the title, to spread hope so that any struggle you may face or someone you're working with may face, you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel and people that have overcome similar situations in the past. So with that said, I would like to introduce our Hudson River Regional Youth Partner, Brennan Williams, who was brave enough to take on the first spot and to share his story first. So Brendan, we thank you for that, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Hello, everybody. So, yes, I was brave enough to volunteer to go first. No, that doesn't bother me. So I've been doing a lot of activism around mental health since I was 16 years old. Ever since I was little, I wanted to be a therapist. I remember, like, my uncle breaking up with some woman, and then, like, I would just sit there and listen to him talk at me when I was little. I don't know if that's what led me there, but that's what I always wanted to do. So I got involved with that when I was in high school. And, you know, I kind of always dealt with depression a little bit when I was younger. Didn't really know what it was. I just figured kind of everybody was like that. So when I was in high school, you know, I did really well. I had good grades. I took the college classes, all of that. And when I got to college, my first year, it wasn't that big of a transition. I was still like living with my parents. It was community college, but I was having a really tough time, and I ended up failing my first year of college completely. So that was really upsetting, and I just had a lot of mental health things going on, and I didn't really know what was going on with me at the time. So I decided that I needed to take a break from school in order to figure that out. And there were a lot of other factors that played into it. I also realized that I was transgender, and that was really distressing. So I thought the dysphoria around that was my issue. So once I kind of started taking care of that, my mental health still wasn't great. And then it was really extra upsetting for me because I thought, wow, once I do this stuff, I'll be good. But that's not how it always works. So I decided to move to California, moved to San Diego. Didn't know anybody there, didn't have a job yet, didn't really have anywhere to live yet, but I moved there and I made it work. And you know, it was a really great experience at first. Being in the nicer climate really helped me and kind of stabilized me a little. But after about a year of being there, I just felt like I was having those same symptoms again, and I didn't really know what was going on. Um, so I decided to go see a psychiatrist. And when I was talking with him, you know, he asked me, so why are you coming here? And what I realized is that, you know, I had some manic episodes, and I didn't know what that was at the time. You know, I went and bought a new car, and I spent $5,000, and I just did all these things that normally I wouldn't do. And then, of course, there are consequences to all of that, and you can't bring those things back or get those things back. So, you know, I got a diagnosis, you know, of bipolar 1 when I was there. And at first it was like I was able to like a sigh of relief about it, but I knew that that wasn't the end of the road. It was really just the beginning, and that that label didn't have to be the only thing that defined me. It felt like it for a while because I was having trouble finding support. I moved back to New York a few months later, and eventually I did reach out, and I found people. What really helped aid in my um, recovery and being like resilient was making myself do things that I loved, like making music again and writing again, and like cycling again, and getting myself out there, and meeting people and talking to people. And with that support, I started to feel better, and I just realized that pushing myself out of my comfort zone was what helped me the most. In terms of having support from other people, what was really helpful for me was having people who could just listen to me and not always have to give advice or always have to try to tell me something about myself. And I don't think we always find people like that necessarily. So I'm really grateful for the people that I have, because when I've, you know, been having a hard time, and just knowing that I could call a friend and have them, you know, come over at midnight and just sit with me, and maybe not even say a word, knowing that they're there with me, even in that way, means more than I could ever verbalize to that person. So um, I think there's a lot of ways to be supportive, and there's a lot of ways for people to be in recovery or being resilient, or whatever word it is that they use. And again, hearing the stories from everybody, including other people outside of us at Youth Power, we all have such diverse stories and experiences, and it's really important to remember that, and to remember that each person has different needs, and you know, just to always be mindful of that. So a few years ago, I was speaking at a mental health event, and they had some people were tabling outside, and I met someone from Youth Power who was tabling, and I hadn't heard of Youth Power at that point yet. And so I was chatting with her, and she said, you know, you should get involved. At the time, you know, there's kind of a lot of barriers for me, so I didn't get involved. And then I moved to Albany, which is where kind of our headquarters, our main office is, and I saw that they were looking to hire a regional youth partner for the Hudson River region. So here I am now, and I'm really excited to be here, and be able to share my story and to hear other people's stories, and you know, keep spreading hope and awareness, and letting people know that we're out there, and you know, we all have voices and things that we want heard. So yeah, that's my story. Thanks for listening.
So thank you very much for sharing, Brendan. I'm Alex Fracina. I'm the Long Island Regional Youth Partner. And my story starts very young, but it was a little bit prior to my understanding of what was going on. So straight from the hospital, I was adopted, and I'm the youngest of four and the only adopted young person in my family. And growing up, I had a lot of questions about who I was supposed to be because it was interracial adoption. So a lot of times I felt like no matter how hard I tried, I didn't fit in with the people I was around. But if I went outside of that group, I also didn't fit in because of how I was raised. So I ran into a lot of struggles of just trying to figure out who I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to feel comfortable in my own skin and wherever I was. And while I was going through this, I was really struggling with being voiceless as I was going through the process of being labeled special education and just trying my best to get through school and without dealing with these struggles. But then I added on all this questioning and my mind wandering and the self-doubt and self-loathing that came with all this questioning. And it really put me in a bad spot and a dark spot where um, I had situations where in school, friends that were worried about me brought up these situations, and I was forced to leave school and go to the hospital where I wouldn't be allowed to return to school without being cleared first as non-harmful to myself or others. And through these things, I learned that when I was given a voice, I was a very sweet talker. I could talk my way out of any situation, so I was never hospitalized, even though at some points I feel that could have happened. I was able to talk my way out of it and kind of downplay the situations I was in. So working through this depression, and a lot of times I don't think it was at their fault, but my parents were my voice through most of my situations. And not that they didn't let me talk, but a lot of times things were handled without my knowledge, which for me, I understand and I'm kind of thankful that it was dealt that way. But now that I'm working at Youth Power and seeing the other side of it, I do wish I was involved and wish I was a part of it, because I would have definitely known more and been more involved with other things as I was growing up. So a lot of things were handled for me and I was kind of hands off through that. And then I graduated high school and I was on my own in college. And that's kind of where I struggled with alcohol. I struggled with marijuana. And I know we're focusing on mental health and sharing our stories, but I always like to share this part because I honestly don't think I was addicted in the sense of like addiction services. I think that I never learned healthy coping skills. So I started drinking as my coping skill. And the reason I think I wasn't addicted, and I know that it is just my personal belief, but because I was able to stop all of these things just when I decided I was on the wrong path. But the reality is I was very deep in, and I remember going through a phase in college where I was going out and getting to the point of not remembering a thing for months at a time. So it really was a problem, but it was really because it became my sole coping skill. So instead of talking to people, instead of calling my family, I would go out and thought partying was the answer, and it was normal because we were in college. And then finally, through going through this and getting sick from both drinking and um, other substance issues, I realized that wasn't the healthiest way for me to cope and for me to deal. So I started to try to get to the bottom of my issues, but I still wasn't comfortable speaking with people because in the past I'd had therapists when I was younger that treated me like a child. So even though I was 17, 18, I would go in there and they would ask me to play a game to get to my feelings. But I was already at the point in my life where I felt like if I had been asked the right questions, I would have just answered them instead of sitting here and treating me like a young person, like a child. And I didn't feel like a child anymore. I felt like I'd been through a lot and like I had my own priorities and kind of knew what was going on. I just wasn't ready to share it. So in that time, I found writing as a way to voice my opinion because it was something I didn't have to share, but it helped me work through what was going on in my head. So I wrote poetry and short stories, but those ended up kind of almost folding back on me and getting me into some trouble because of the content I was writing about. And because of the dark content, it led to me going back to the hospital and me feeling like my own creativity and an outlet I was using to not do something bad got me in trouble. But when I was doing bad things, I was able to hide it enough where I didn't get in trouble for that. So it didn't really seem to make sense to me. But as I'm going through this, and these are things that I still struggle with today, just the constant self-doubt or slipping into depressions, and it's really all based on not necessarily your mindset, but just knowing when it's coming on and being able to handle it in that moment. Because before I would get depressed and I would let it slide until it got to a point where I couldn't get out of bed. Now I understand my triggers. I understand when I'm starting to feel that way, and I understand things I can do to try to help it. It's never going to stop it or make it go away, but it's things that I can help myself in those situations so I'm still being productive and creating a better outcome. And I think going through all these things and like looking back at them now, the biggest things that helped me were, one, my parents letting me learn. So they might have seen some things I was doing as not the best, but instead of just saying, hey, you can't do this and not explaining why, they would either give me an explanation or I would learn the hard way. So they never, I mean, I know they didn't agree with me drinking underage, but they never said, hey, you can't go out. But when I came home and got very sick from drinking, I learned my own lesson, and it was really like teaching me and not babying me. So I knew why I shouldn't be doing these things. And they also encouraged me every step of the way. And I feel sometimes there were times where I was being encouraged, oh, you should go to trade school because you're not going to succeed in college. But they always encouraged me to do what I wanted to do and what I believed I could do. And I think having that person behind you, rooting you on, and really wishing the best for you made me want to not only be successful for myself, but also for them. And then I think this encouragement is also what helped me find healthy coping skills. They encouraged me to try different things. I've played every sport under the sun. I've written, I've played every instrument you could think of. Unfortunately, not good at any of them, but I've played every instrument, and through this, I found writing and hip hop. And I utilize hip hop to connect with a group of people now that are my natural supports. Whereas I used to write and that was the only thing I could talk to, or I would talk to my parents. Now I have this group of people that casually things come up. So when I'm having a hard time, we go to the studio, and it used to just be about music, but now we're talking about our lives. We're supporting each other. We're helping each other move. We're doing everything. And it was being able to find this coping skill and this creativity to connect me with other people that were like-minded and enjoyed the same things as me. And I think this was all flourished from my parents encouraging me to try different things, not saying like, oh, why would you want to be a rapper? They just let me go record my music, and from that, I've connected to this great group of people that really support me musically and just in my personal life. And then I also think as I've gotten older that youth power has helped me in unmeasurable ways, because it really encouraged me to share my story, which is something that up until I started working at Youth Power, people even very close to me only knew little parts of my story. So this encouragement to share my story and really open up about what I've gone through in hopes to shine light for other people to see a better outcome, it's very empowering to me to know that I can help others with my story and that other people have gone through similar things, because every step of the way I felt like I was alone. So I really thank Youth Power for everything that they do, and it's really great to be a part of it, because it helps me not only encourage other people, but really work through my own issues as I share my story, because there's things that pop up in my head every time I'm speaking that I'm like, oh yeah, that happened and I had to go through that. So it's really important to know that sharing your story is not only good for other people, but it is a huge tool as you are in, when you're in a good spot in your recovery, to share this just so you can work through it and see how effective it is to help other people. So I thank you for letting me share my story. And now I welcome Peterson, our New York City regional partner, to share their story.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So, yeah, my name is, again, Peterson Rodriguez, and I'm the New York City Regional Youth Partner. My story is a very, it's one of those stories where you've probably experienced something like that. You've probably experienced this feeling, but I've been in foster care since I was 3 years old. I was adopted by my birth family, but in the midst of living with my birth family, I suffered severe mental and verbal abuse. When you're dealing with abuse like that, it can be really hard to fight for yourself, especially when no one in your life fights for you. And I experienced a time in my life where I was being abused, that there was nobody who stood up and said this is wrong. And so if I even stood up and said it was wrong, it would just make me feel like I was just doing something that I shouldn't, because everyone was so okay with us. So it was like, am I the issue? Is the issue me? People came into my life. I had great teachers who would come into my life and really bring me hope in terms of things getting better, but they would not be able to change my living circumstances. They weren't able to change the way that I was being treated at home. So I acted out, and I took out my anger and frustration and sadness out on people on the street, and I would, steal from stores and do all of these negative things that wounded me up in the juvenile justice system. But it was kind of a wake-up call going into the juvenile justice system. They cut me up with a court judge who was very understanding of what I was going through and wanted to help. And I think that really was the start of a transition from negative to positive. While I was going through my court case, my mom passed away, and my mother was not somebody who I lived with, but she was also one of those pieces of hope in my life, one of those most positive people that kept me from being so depressed, because I suffered with severe depression. But by the time she passed away, I was just tired of all the abuse. And through my juvenile court case, I ended up volunteering myself back into foster care after being adopted. And I was sad and I was alone. I was in the residential treatment center, and I wouldn't speak to anyone because I was tired of being left by people who would provide me hope but would just leave me. And being in the residential treatment center kind of opened my eyes, because I saw a lot of these things happening to young people and even to myself, where I knew that this couldn't be right. I was an avid reader, and I used to read every documentation that was provided by the agency. So they would give you your Know Your Rights book, and I read it front to back. So I knew my rights, but I just didn't talk to anyone to say anything. But one day they tried to do something that was just so against my rights that I just couldn't take it anymore. And I started advocating, and from advocating for myself, I went and advocated for other young people. And I think that really kind of changed the way that I looked at myself. I stopped being a victim, and in that moment became the change. And I still suffered through the severe depression through college, but I learned to take it one day at a time. I go to therapy, and I know that if someone tries to hurt me or put me down, I now can do something about it, because I'm able to share my voice. I'm able to talk to people and let them know what is going on, what are the facts. And when you know the facts and when you're able to advocate for yourself, people see that, and they don't no longer give you crap and they show you respect. And I went from feeling alone to being surrounded by people who make me feel alive, who make me feel loved. I have been so blessed to be surrounded by my birth family again, even after all of the abuse. And I think that when we speak about, you know, being in foster care, when we speak about having mental health challenges, we know that one of the main things that a lot of us and these systems, we feel alone. And I truly believe that without the foresight and the knowledge and the push that I gave myself to start advocating, I possibly could still be feeling alone, could still be feeling down and depressed. But now I'm able to channel those feelings whenever I do feel down into a positive thing. And if you can take anything from what I'm saying today, I just want you to take that. We can make any negative thing that we go through in our lives positive if we, you know, force ourselves to break the mold and force ourselves to come out of that situation and come out on top and victorious. And I thank you all for really giving me the time. I thank you all for listening to me. And I would just like to say, yeah, have a great day. And I want to transition now to my colleague. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Mika, thank
Hey, Mika, if you want to unmute your microphone, we'll be able to hear you better. Thank you.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Peterson, for sharing your story. So I've kind of sat with this for a little while because I didn't know where exactly to begin my story. Growing up, there's a history of mental health in my family, so that kind of thing was normal for the most part. I remember, as far as back as I can remember, I remember kind of feeling depressed, not feeling like I wanted to be involved with other children my age. I know that that was a huge one for me. I never wanted to be around anybody my age because I felt kind of isolated from everybody. I felt like I couldn't relate. I felt like they didn't know what I was going through. So that was definitely a challenge. I would say that my mental health kind of escalated, if that's the word that you want to use. Definitely in my teens, I struggled immensely. I was hospitalized several times as a youth, and I remember just feeling so desperately scared and petrified and not understanding what was really going on. But I knew that you know, that was the best environment for me. So I kind of got to a point when I was hospitalized that I just accepted it as my norm. I figured everybody went through this. Everybody at one point in their life, whether they talk about it or not, must be in a facility like this. And I just learned to accept it. And that's a good thing and that's a bad thing because I was accepting what was going on right here, right now. But I also taught myself to kind of just understand that every once in a while I'm going to have to go back to the hospital and be away from my friends and my family and all this other stuff. And I think that for me, that was a very dark place in my life. In the 10th grade, my mom and I decided that it would be best for me to attend a alternative school. And honestly, at the time, I didn't understand, again, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand like how that was different from regular school. And as many of you might know, alternative school is looked at as the bad kid school. So transitioning into that was extremely difficult for me because I felt like I was surrounded by people who were in my classes or in my school or in the hallways and stuff like that were always kind of like behaviorally having difficulty. And so when I was in this same classroom with those peers, it was hard for me because I kind of had this moment of like, this is not me, I'm not a bad kid, all these other things. But as a youth attending these schools, we were told all the time, you're bad kids, that's why you're not in school, in typical school. And looking back on that experience, I'm extremely thankful for that. That is what allowed me to, excuse me, that's what allowed me to finish up my high school years, and I actually walked the stage. And for a long time, I felt like that wasn't even a thing, and I think that everybody around me felt like it was kind of doubtful sometimes because my mental health was so severe. On a side note, I was also diagnosed with epilepsy at around the age of 12, and that just complicated things because I couldn't be on certain medicines, or I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that because it would cause a seizure. And so I kind of had a lot of stuff going on. Youth Power has, already changed the way that I look at things. I've been doing work with youth in general for quite a while now, and I was definitely drawn to that work because I felt silenced when I was younger. I felt like I didn't have a voice. I didn't feel like I have many choices. I feel like the people that were providing me services or support were doing the best that they could do, but they were even kind of lost as to how exactly to kind of help me out. So that's where my passion came from. I had a moment when I was 18 years old where something significant happened, and I kind of just literally woke up one day and said, something has to give. If I continue doing this, I'm not going to be around to see the age of 20 even. And so I kind of committed myself to that, and it was definitely very, very rocky and very, very hard. But I did it, and so I think my resiliency lies in the fact that I have a natural passion for helping others. I'm an observer. I love people watching. I could just go to the mall and sit and watch people all day. But another component of that is that I'm absolutely fascinated with everybody's stories, good, bad, and in between. So that definitely has helped me as far as academically. I'm currently going to school to get my bachelor's in social work. So that was definitely a big piece of it because I wanted others to know, no matter age, shape, size, that you're not the only one who goes through this. And a lot of times we're told like, oh, you're a bad kid, oh, you're a bad person, oh, like, why did you do that? What were you thinking? And it's so much more than that. And I really do have to kind of attribute my experiences to being able to come full circle now and kind of, learning about myself and learning about other people and learning even like youth development. And that was so important to me when I was younger, that I felt like I was silenced. I didn't have a voice. So that definitely has gotten me where I am today. I would like to say that I'm, if you could say, successful, because I am going to school, and I was told for so long that, like, you're not even going to graduate high school. How in the heck are you going to go to college? And here I am begrudgingly getting my bachelor's degree. It's so hard. But I owe that to myself. I don't owe that to anybody else. I owe it to me to prove to myself, like, oh my God, you can do this. So I'm going to pass it on to Azaria now, and thank you very much, everybody, for listening.
Azaria, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I hit the speakerphone and that.
You don't have to be shy.
Okay. So I'm the last one to go, but thank you everybody for sharing. So my name is Azaria Whittakin. I'm the Western Regional Youth Partner. So So I'm one of 4 siblings. I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers. My youngest brother lived with his father in Florida, and we were out of contact with him for many years, so it was really just me and my other 2 siblings. My mother really suffered most of her life with unaddressed trauma and mental health. Despite reoccurring encounters with the system, it never really helped us because it never helped her. The drug rehabilitation programs and incarceration never really gave her the right supports to address her trauma. I feel family support would have helped and follow through with services, and if service providers checked in more with us. We as children were the ones who really suffered because she never got the help that she really needed. The 3 of us ended up in foster care when I was 13. They were able to keep us together, but they kept us together by transporting us an hour and a half away from our community, our friends, and what family we had. Keeping us together, I feel, was more beneficial than keeping us in our community. So we counted the days till we could go home though. We really, like, literally had calendars and counted the days. It was well over a year, almost 2, I believe, before our mother got out of incarceration and we were able to go home. My mother was not ready though, and they knew that she wasn't ready, and we went home anyway. We saw our caseworker the day that she dropped us off, and we never saw her again. We were supposed to have a new worker that was supposed to continue to work with us and support us with the transition back home. They never showed up, and they never supported this new start for us. We spiraled so quickly. My mother was doing drugs, my sister moved out, and I chased my brother around the streets. I got a job as soon as I turned 16 to get my brother and myself things that we needed that food stamps wouldn't pay for. When it was at the worst, my brother and I spent about 6 months couch surfing. I didn't know at the time that that was considered like homeless, but we were. The place that our mother was currently living was not safe for us, and we actually ended up back in that home. My mental health deteriorated. I was sick every day with headaches and just so angry. Luckily, I remained in contact with my previous foster family. They honestly really loved us. Despite our circumstances, we were pretty respectful and grateful that they took us in and were doing what they did as foster parents. They really gave us an idea of what normal was, and they cried the day that we felt was like the happiest day of our lives when we actually left the foster care system. I would visit them occasionally, and I visited them when things were at their worst. I broke down and I told them just how bad it was. At our approval, they called our caseworker from that county, and even myself called into CPS. My sister was already 17 at the time and not living with us, so it was just my brother and I. CPS came for us, interviewed us, and we were back into CPS custody within a few hours and on our way back home. It was not easy. We were more damaged than the first time we went into care. I was physically sick every day. I ended up going on a few different medications and had my very own therapist. My foster parents' understanding of that we had experienced trauma and how supportive they were really helped me. The relationship that I had with them and the foster care agency helped. Therapy and even the anxiety medications helped me. I'd share more about my siblings, but their stories are not mine to share. My parents and I briefly looked into adoption, and it really scared me. We never followed through with the process, and there wasn't any follow-up that I can remember. Even though it doesn't really matter because I am a part of their family, I wish there was a lot more questions and support offered to us and them in terms of supporting adoption. So currently, I'm 27 years old. I'm an advocate for change with Youth Power, and I love it. I'm engaged to an amazing and supportive man, and we're planning to get married next year in September. I have a bachelor's degree in social work, and I recently just bought a house too. What really helped me was all the support that I received. My siblings, my foster parents, and workers never really letting us go. I had a lot of cheerleaders in my life that really focused on what I could do and kept pushing me in the direction of my dreams. I spent a lot of time focusing on my own mental health and wellness, looking towards the future and trying to better myself every day. I like to surround myself with people who bring me up, because if they're not, they're bringing me down. I spent way too much of my life down already, and it's only up from here. I just want to say that I forgave my mother and accept her for who she is, but I did it for myself and not really so much for her. So that's me, and I think I'm switching it over to Alex, who's going to walk us through the rest of our PowerPoint.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing, Azaria. So first off, before we get into this PowerPoint, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to our stories, and we hope you leave feeling empowered and ready to face any struggles that come your way or help anyone overcome their struggles. As a team, we wanted to walk through a little bit of information about youth power and what we have going on in our regions and upcoming events. Mika, can you go to the next slide? So here you'll see our mission statement, which is Youth Power is a New York State network of young people who have been labeled and are seeking change. Together we have decided to speak up about our experiences because no one knows what it's like better than we do. Through peer-to-peer mentoring, we empower young people to be active citizens who are aware of government operations, their rights, and the ability to use their voice to influence policies, practices, regulations, and laws. We are young people helping other people, ensuring availability of self-help, peer support, while changing systems so that young people get the support they need with the dignity and respect they deserve. And a huge part of that is the dignity and respect they deserve. So it's about young people feeling and knowing that they're part of the team and being able to voice their opinions and be included in any decision being made for them. Next slide, Mika. Our vision is, this is why we do the work we do. And it's Youth Power envisions a world that embraces diversity, encourages resilience, is strength-based, and has the ability to adapt, a community in which young people are inspired, empowered, and supported to make informed choices. And we've made many steps over the past few years towards this, but there's always more work to be done, and it really includes everyone on this call and beyond to be involved in this to accomplish this goal and this vision. Next slide, please, Mika. Our strategic goals as Youth Power are to expand and strengthen the YP network, and this is, we'll go into in a little bit about our regional teams and how we are truly youth run, and we always need more young people to be involved and engaged to help direct Youth Power in what topics we need to be tackling. To advocate for system change and ensure better opportunities for young people. We want to increase empowerment and skill building opportunities and advocacy opportunities for young people. So make sure that not only there are opportunities, but there's ways to get these opportunities to more young people so that people know they're available and know how to be involved. We also aim to improve the quality of youth peer advocacy, and we do this by offering technical assistance and training opportunities to both young people and our adult allies. So we will go into facilities and speak to staff about being youth guided and how to really utilize youth voice, along with speaking to young people about being heard and being part of the decision-making process. And then a huge thing is to practice and promote cultural competency and diversity. We want to make sure that as we grow as Youth Power, we're including everyone that wants to be a part and wants to have a voice and wants these changes so that we represent everyone across the state, not just a select group of people. Now I welcome Brennan.
Yes, thank you. So here we have some of the groups that we have and some of the opportunities that you can be involved in other than being on a regional team. So we have our outreach work group, and what we do with that group is creating ways to grow the network, outreach, strengthen our voice, and the work group also is an editorial board for our printed member newsletter. We have our special events work group, and they take the lead in planning our major statewide events, such as the Families Together in New York State Conference and the University of Youth Power, which we will tell you a little bit more about that shortly. And we have our action work group, Speak Out, and this work group, we're talking about our priority agenda, creating action campaigns, and lastly, but not least, we have our regional teams, and like we mentioned before, we have the 5 regions in New York State. All of us represent, we're all working in each region, and we're doing events, project, campaigns. If we can go to the next slide, and you'll hear more about our regional teams very shortly. Our outreach work group, this work group creates ways to grow the Youth Power Network and strengthen its voice. And we have a few ways of doing that. We have promotional materials, media, and news are created. So some things that we work on, we have our member-to-member news, our newsletter, some of the website content, and then in terms of social media, we have some videos that we're working on right now, the youth leadership video, and we also have general youth power informational videos, and we do have some videos up on our YouTube channel, so you can always check those out. They're very entertaining, and I think I'm gonna pass it over to Azaria now.
Hello. So I just want to talk about special events work group. So this work group takes the lead in planning our youth power major events, such as like Families Together Conference in New York State, our youth track, and our annual statewide summer youth leadership forums. Some of our current projects include the conference, the Families Together New York State Conference, and also University of Youth Power. If you want to click on the next one. In action group, they're in charge of, so this work group develops projects to advance our priority agenda. Our members have a lot to say, and this group makes sure we are heard. They create campaigns and take action. Work group members will also meet with government officials and organize opportunities for youth to speak up and speak out. So it's not just local activities, but we have statewide events where action group is involved. Some of the current activity topics include our voice in the education system, and restraint and seclusion reduction and elimination across systems, and also juvenile justice reform. And our next person who's going to speak is Peterson.
Hi, everyone. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about FACE, Fostering Advocacy Change and Empowerment. FACE was started in, with Youth Power in 2016, but was originally founded in 2014, and they work to empower young people to advocate for themselves and change legislation that directly affects their lives, so youth receive support and become healthy and vibrant individuals. We always wanted to provide a safe platform for youth to advocate, and right now we're building our team. The contact for FACE is Destiny Henry, who's the New York City FACE coordinator, and her contact information is actually in this little box, and we'll also be able to give you that if you contact me, the New York City Regional Youth Partner. That's a little bit about FACE. I'm going to transfer it now over to, I believe, Mika. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about University of Youth Power. As you can see, it's coming up sooner than I would was realizing earlier. It's right around the corner. So June 24th to June 27th at the College of St. Rose in Albany, we will be having the University of Youth Power. It's a youth peer leadership conference modeled after a college experience. So the conference provides youth peer advocates and change agents the opportunity to build skills, expand the professional network. Young people ages 18 to 30 can register for this For Youth by Youth social justice conference. There's a couple, you can choose from a couple different majors, peer advocacy or systems advocacy. And as I understand, this year they're going to have electives that youth can choose from, so that's something new and exciting that we're really all excited about. Last year I was able to attend this not in a professional capacity but a peer capacity, which was very, very cool. I have to say, hands down, my favorite part was the annual leadership dinner. So as you can see here, it's the 10th annual Leaders Dinner that we're going to be having this year. Students will have the opportunity to meet with government leaders and discuss what successes and challenges they've identified in systems serving youth and young adults. They're typically, well, they are separated into different topics, so like mental health, juvenile justice, disability rights. We have a various selection of individuals that come and sit and have dinner with us. It's a very, very unique opportunity, and it's good to sit down and understand from both perspectives. So last year I was able to sit down with somebody who served in the juvenile justice field, and I was able to better understand kind of their perspective from somebody who is the head of an organization, and also sit down so they could understand my perspective as somebody who was working with youth who are involved in juvenile justice and mental health. If you're interested in this, there is information down at the bottom, so you can visit our website at youthpowerny.org/UYP. As you also can see, you can register as a resident or as a day student. So definitely, if you have some youth in mind that you think would benefit from that, definitely check that out. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do as the regional youth partners. So myself and everybody that's spoke before me, we're all regional youth partners. We act as a facilitator, ensuring meaningful two-way communication between child-serving agencies and young people using their services. So our job is really to help increase youth voice on all levels of youth services. We also connect and support local youth league groups, host regional gatherings. We're field organizers working to make our New York State youth movement stronger. So now we're each going to talk about what's going on in our world as RYPs, regional youth partners. So I'm going to switch it over to Brennan.
Hello. Yes, thank you. So we'll each talk about our regions briefly and give you an idea of what's going on. So you can see some information that I have up here. So the Hudson River region goes from Westchester up to Warren, Washington counties. So there are 16 in my region. And the regional team meets once a month, and sometimes the meetings are in person, but it is always accessible through a video conferencing and phone call. So we're really trying to make it accessible for people, even if they live in a rural area and they can't always make it in person, that they can still participate. The regional teams, they plan the regional youth forums, events, outreach, youth power activities. The picture on the right here is a picture of Bree. She's a regional team member, and this is a picture of her at our wellness forum that we had back in March. And she's holding a picture from our photo booth that says your illness doesn't define you. The wellness forum, to give you an idea of the forums, those are all planned by the regional team. As the RYPs, you know, we're just being supportive and kind of like helping to guide that. So this was completely planned by them. There is an idea of starting up some sort of LGBT network-wide group or opportunity. We're still kind of working on figuring out details about that and what that might look like, so please check back for that. And down below I have some of my information, and all of our information is going to be on the slide at the end, and there will be plenty of ways to get that information. So that's a little bit about what we're doing in our region, and Alex is going to talk about his region next. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. So I am the Long Island Regional Youth Partner. I represent Suffolk County and Nassau County on Long Island, and I kind of feel bad sometimes when I say that because everyone else has like 20 counties and I only have those 2, but Long Island is a big place, so I don't feel as bad. So some things that are working on currently on Long Island, as Brendan mentioned, we're planning our regional youth forum, which allows young people to voice input and be heard. We're trying to utilize feedback from these forums to create our priority agenda and make sure youth power is focusing on topics being identified by young people within our regions. And then also mentioned, and you're going to see multiple people mention this, is a peer leadership support and development group, which is a pleased group. And it's about connecting young peer leaders that are currently working in the field to opportunities to support each other and also identify topics that they would like to learn more about, whether that be facilitating groups and or icebreakers to use and just things to help move their career development. We're currently trying to set up a please group on Long Island to meet in person. Right now we have a text group running with identified peer leaders that support each other, but we'd really like to move it to an in-person meeting, and we're trying to set up the logistics and how often we can meet. Besides that, on Long Island upcoming, we have the Bi-County Empowerment Conference, which is more focused on adult peers, but we're really trying to hit the young adult age range, and what we'll be doing at that is performing for Harnessing Hip Hop. So we're going to be performing music at the end of the Bi-County Conference and have involvement from some of the young people on my regional team to express their creativity. And then Harnessing Hip Hop was something created from our forum 2 years ago where young people stated there weren't enough activities that spiked their interest. They were doing a lot of things that were just put in front of them, but nothing that really engaged them. And Harnessing Hip Hop was a way to use hip hop as a coping skill and to connect to natural supports. And we've seen it receive very good feedback in every setting. We've done it from youth groups to conferences to with adults. And it's just really about bringing people together to write music and understand that creativity is a great coping skill and can help you regulate your own thoughts. And that's really the focus of Harnessing Hip Hop. And you'll see the picture to the right is me performing at last year's May Day in representation of Harnessing Hip Hop. And my contact information is up top, but as Brendan mentioned, after this you'll be receiving an email that has all our contact information and other ways to get in touch with us. So now I welcome Peterson to talk about what's going on in New York.
Hi, everyone. So again, I'm the New York City Regional Youth Partner, and I cover Bronx, Queens, New York, Queens, Richmond, so that's Brooklyn. And a little bit about some of the things that I have going on is every first Friday of the month, we have our peer leader support and development group, our police group, and we're going to be doing a lot of things around support and advocacy for youth advocates and peer leaders. So if you are a young adult who is interested in becoming a youth advocate or active leader in the youth movement, then I welcome you to our Please meetings. I'm also looking for members for our City Oversight Committee, Youth Advisory Council, which, as a little bit about me is I'm new, so I'm just starting. So trying to get all my teams really together, strengthen the team. So right now is the time to join. And also I'm looking for members for my New York City regional team because we are planning our New York City Regional Youth Forum, and we really need young people who are passionate about creating change and who have experience in a child serving system like foster care, mental health, special education. If that's you, please do not hesitate to contact me. Veterans of Youth Power are welcome, and I really look forward to working with you guys and really expanding youth advocacy in New York City. And now I'm going to transfer over to Mika.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Mika Gonzalez. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the Central Regional Youth Partner. So there's my beautiful picture up at the top, and my contact information is underneath there. I cover 20 counties, so I cover Broome, Cayuga, Chenango, Clinton, Cortland, Delaware, Essex, Franklin, Fulton, all of those that you see down there. So a little bit of what's going on in my world. I am currently looking for youth to join the regional team. So as everybody before me said, we all each have our own regional team. So my regional team meets 1 to 2 times a month via the GoTo app. So that can be on the computer or on the phone, or you can even share a webcam. And we work closely together to plan forums and events and outreach, learn a little bit about what's going on in their world, because they might not necessarily be where I'm located. So, you know, maybe since I'm here in Onondaga County, I'm working with somebody in my regional team who is in St. Lawrence County, and we can kind of just share a little bit of what's going on, or even some of the concerns that youth have there in that area. Another thing that's going on is, again, was mentioned before, the PLEASE group, so Peer Leadership Support and Development. Myself and our Western person, Azaria, are teaming up and doing ours together. So it's our next one is June 12th from 1 to 2:30, and we're going to be talking about advocacy skills. So that's definitely something to look forward to. I do wish I had included that information a little bit more, but if you're interested, you certainly can email me or text, call. There's also my Facebook information too. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is there's no definite date yet, but my regional team and I were talking last week, and we're going to try and shoot for August for the Central Region Youth Forum. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, and as we get closer and kind of go through some details and stuff, I will definitely let everybody know. And now I'm going to pass it on to Azaria.
All right, hello. So I am responsible for, I'm in the Western region. My contact information is right up at the top there for you. So the Western region consists of Niagara County, Erie, Chautauqua, Orleans, Genesee, Wyoming, Cattaraugus, Monroe, Livingston, Allegheny, Wayne, Ontario, Yates, Steuben, Seneca, Schuyler, Chemung, Tompkins, and Tioga. So all 19 counties in the Western region. So what we're up to, my regional team also meets 1 to 2 times a month, and currently, well, we're working on the Disability Pride Parade. We're planning to be in that, the one in Buffalo. It's on July 22nd. Members who would like to participate in the actual parade will get a t-shirt. And we are also participating in the festival after, so it's like an all-day thing. We're also planning our Western Regional Forum in August. So, so I'm also looking for members to kind of join the regional team to participate in planning those events. If you see there in the corner, that's our forum from last year and my regional team. So also, please, like Mika was saying about this month's coming up topic, June 12th from 1 to 2:30, is advocating for youth peer advocate services. So that's expanding youth peer advocate services and in the capacities that they are currently. if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'm also on Facebook. My info is YP Western Region. And I would like to pass it on to, I'm not sure, Alex.
Thank you, Azaria. So in closing, on behalf of Youth Power and the RYPs, we thank you for taking the time out to join us and listen to us sharing our stories. Please feel free to take some time and check out our website at www.youthpowerny.org for more information. And also this webinar will be placed on there for viewing at a later date. And it'll also be, the information on how to find it will be sent out in an email post this webinar. But again, we thank you for taking time out to listen to our stories. And now we open the floor. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the question box and we will answer them to the best of our ability. And look forward to the email where you can find out your local regional youth partners' contact information and also the contact for any questions you may have on Youth Power in general.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions, so I think we're going to wrap it up for now. But again, you can always contact us and that information will be sent out. That way you can get in touch. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And
Thank you, guys.
I'm sure we'll all connect with you soon.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
everybody.
Abigail. Thank you, Lori.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.